everybody, and it's so great to be joined with the author of our great book that he wrote, Bill Pavao. I see so many smiling faces, and everyone seems very interested in this topic, so we don't want to make too many comments before the thing goes. But we had some things that we wanted to present Bill. And one of them is, if you could come up here, Pat, if you want to come up with me.
Oh, my buddy Pat, absolutely. This is my new best buddy. She bought 3 books. She is my new best friend. Hi, Pat. This is my new pal.
You want us up there with you, Nancy?
Yeah, well, yeah. We're all together here. So we have this lovely painting, and
It's lovely. That's awesome.
get rid of that. And so we wanted to have one made for him. With us, and Society, and the Friends of the Flemings School, which is a subset. And Mrs. Patrick is the president with me and Liz Robinson, if anybody's interested. But really, we can't thank you enough, and we wanted you to have this, so
My God,
you
thank
can't forget about this.
Thank you, that's awesome. Wonderful, thank you so much.
And Doug had a couple things he wanted to say.
Absolutely.
I'm happy to see these folks here, and I just wanted to ask, and Doug Sears, I'm president of this society, Nancy's the vice president, she does all the work, and I stand up at times like this to greet as well. And Pat's very working, and Karen Favreau and her whole crew, I don't want to keep mentioning names in case I forget somebody. How many people here attended in some way, shape, or fashion the Flemings School? Can we have a raise of hands? That is quite impressive. And you all are standing as older children. The Ella Fleming is still there. When there was the little red schoolhouse, my kids went there a while back. And we're just really grateful that we have preserved, and we're still preserving, there's a long way to go, this wonderful piece of Americana, and particularly of Tewksbury history. I mean, this is the way things were, and I'm glad we still have this place that we can look at and enjoy. So what I have here is just something very simple. We're trying to get members to this society, and that we all would look forward to your applying and becoming active and help us be more active. And so one of the ways to get a member is to give a lifetime membership to somebody. So here is Bill, an august letter here, subject to placement in any bureau drawer that you may have somewhere in its history. It says, "Dear Bill, we would like to express, and the we is everyone in the society, our sincerest thanks to you for all your work and careful efforts on the Ella Fleming School book. Your contribution to the narrative of Tewksbury history will forever be improved and broadened with the addition of all the facts, stories, and personalities you include. And as a token of our gratitude, we'd like to extend you an honorary lifetime membership to the Tewksbury Historical Society, and we wish you all the best success in your future." Signed from all of us.
That's sweet. Yeah, I don't want to get choked up. That's sweet. Thank you.
So with that, I will let Bill take over.
Awesome. Thanks, Pat. I'm so touched. I have to tell you a funny story. It's actually true. So, I mean, I grew up in Tewksbury until from the age of 1974 we moved here until, that was in 1975. Till 1985, we moved to Townsend. And, my parents used to take us to the JDs. So when I would come here and do research, every once in a while I'd go to the JDs for dinner. So I went in there tonight on my way here after school. And I went, I'm just gonna go stop at the JDs. So when I was leaving, I was paying my bill, and I thought, well, today's a good day. I'm gonna buy some lottery tickets. And so I bought a couple lottery tickets, and he's looking at me, he goes, you look like somebody on TV. I'm like, oh, this is great. Ben Affleck, John Travolta. I was waiting. I'm like, all right, who's it gonna be? He goes, yeah, you look like that Kojak guy. I'm like, Kojak. That's what I got tonight, Kojak. All right, so that's how we're gonna start this, Kojak. I'm not gonna stand at the lectern. I don't teach like that. I'm a history teacher, so I walk around all the time. One of my coworkers monitored some of my classes a few years ago, and she goes, you must be exhausted at the end of the day. I go, why? She goes, you do not stop moving that whole class. I go, that's how you keep the kids' attention. You move around. You can't just stand in one place or sit down ever. So I'm not going to talk a lot about the history of the school, just a little bit, because I did do a lecture here a couple of years ago that's on YouTube. That's the history of the school. So I wanted to do something that's different. So this is more about the book and about my journey through the book and what the book means to me. It means a lot. So let's take a look. So I have some thanks first. So Robert, I have to thank you for hosting tonight and for being so supportive of this, and also the talk I did maybe like 2 or 3 years ago now, right?
So folks, as Bill said, he did a Zoom with us 2 or 3 years ago. It's on YouTube, and I'll send you all the links. So tomorrow you'll get an email from me with a feedback survey, and I'll include the YouTube video.
And thank you. And that was all the history of the school. So, and I had noticed that somebody made a comment on Facebook, and they said, well, he's basically going to do the same talk. And I thought, well, how do you know that? Because I made it. And I haven't told anybody anything. It's different. It's completely different. So I have to thank the Historical Society. Doug Sears, I met the first time in 1996. I was working on the book then. Isn't that sad? Nancy Reed, I can't thank you enough. Seriously, for everything. Truly, you've become my pal. The Friends of the Flemings School, my Pat, up here, my new best friend. Right before the book was done, when I first had the first cover laid out, this is not what the cover looked like. There was a different photo here. So you might still see that online. And then there's one chapter in the book that's about the Fleming School in the arts. So you can see how people have portrayed this school in paintings. And so I thought, well, I got some space here. So I called Nancy. I said, can I use that painting just to put there? It's not going to be in black and white, but it still would look cool. Just put it there. So the girl that did the layout of the book for me saw that. She goes, oh, no, that belongs on the cover. And before I turned around, that was emailed to me with this on the cover. So it has remained on the cover. I hadn't even seen the original until tonight. So, thanks to the Friends of the Flemings School, because they are the ones who own the painting. And of course, I have to thank every single one of you. I'm so grateful. I'm humbled. I'm really touched. My friend Pat now bought 3 books. Touched, very touched. So first thing, who am I? I told you already that I grew up in Tewksbury until I was 14 years old. I grew up in Wamisit, so at the far end of Troll Road, where old Main Street is, where it used to be Crane Rental. And so I grew up on Linden Ave until I was 14. Then after my father passed away, we moved to Townsend. So Townsend's my other home. And from there, I went to Fitchburg State College, where I got a degree in history. I'm still a history and civics teacher now. I teach 8th grade. A bunch of people came up to me and they were asking what I taught, and they were like, hey, oh God, middle school. Unbelievable. I did go to Fitchburg State. I went to Eastern Nazarene for my master's degree. Yes, I put this on the back of the book because people seem to think it's cool. I was the curator of the Lizzie Borden house in Fall River, both the house that the murder took place in, but then years later, I was the curator of the house that she lived in after the murders. So I already know what you're thinking. Yes, I do think she did it. I'd say about 90% sure. I always leave 10% chance. You know, maybe somebody else did it, but no, I would say Lizzie, for sure. So I already know what you want to know. I was thinking this last night. I already know. How did you get interested in a school and why? Because that's the first question everybody asks me when they see the book. And I actually kept the book a secret for a long time. Like Doug knew, you know, Nancy knew, but even my closer friends did not even know I was writing a book. Because when you do something like that, people are always asking, when's the book coming out? When's the book going to be done? Where's the book? So this way, hardly anybody knew about it. So no one asked. So when I look at pictures of myself as a kid, I'm like, how did this kid get interested in a school? He looks kind of normal. Except for this one in the middle, maybe, and I had hair. I don't look like Kojak there. That was craziness. So I'm like, all right, so these were taken in Tewksbury, so how did this kid get interested in a schoolhouse that I never attended? I never went to the Flemings School. I wasn't a teacher there. I never went to school there. I went to the Doing School. And if you know the Doing School, the way it's laid out, you have to go around the U to get out, right? And the Fleming School's on the right. So I started in the Doing School when I was in kindergarten. I was 4 years old. And every day, K through 6, I saw that school every single day. And as a teacher, you know, I really do feel that there is no more magical place than a classroom. And to me, the school was magical. And I don't know why, I can't explain it, but maybe when I do this, it'll gel, it'll come together. So here I am, my first day of school, going to kindergarten, age 4, my hair's sticking up all over the place. And I went to school. I had never been to school in my life. There was no daycare, there was no pre-K back then, no. So I went to school and I came home and I told my mother, I want to be a teacher. The very first day, I was 4. So that's part of the love of the school, is that I wanted to be a teacher, and I always knew. And I was actually telling my students this today, because we were talking about the Declaration of Independence and what the pursuit of happiness means. And I said, you know, for me, as a kid, I knew where the arrow was flying. I knew what the target was. And every day, riding out of the Doing School, I saw the Flemings School, and I took this picture in 1982. So, I mean, even as a young kid, I really loved the school. I thought it was really neat. Miss Wheaton, who's now Mrs. Ryan, she's married to John Ryan, who was the assistant superintendent here in school in Tewksbury. I loved her. I had her for 4th grade. And she did a unit on Tewksbury history. And I absolutely remember this. And she took us on a field trip where we went around Tewksbury and we saw different historic sites and we studied them. And that got me interested in Tewksbury history. And it got me interested in local history. And the day that we were supposed to go over to the Flemings School, I was absent. I was out sick that day. So I still didn't get to go into the school. What is going on? Look at this tie. What was my mother thinking? It's up to here. It's like up to here. She let me out of the house like that. I mean, seriously, what is she thinking? So the other thing is, so this is going to be something we talked about. When I was attending the Doing School, the kids in the Fleming School, there were 3 6th grade classes over there. And I thought they were the most special kids. They had to be in this other building that was so cool looking that you had to be a special person to get over there. And every day, those kids would come out of the school and they would march across the parking lot to the Doing School for the CAF, gym, art, music. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to march in the rain. I wanted to go out in the snow. I thought that they had to be special somehow. And so to me, in my mind, as a kid, that school meant you were special. And then Prop 2.5 came and closed the school. I was in 5th grade. So I was 1 September away. 1 September away. And the school's closed. I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? But that year, because there were so many layoffs in Tewksbury, we didn't know who our homeroom teachers were gonna be when we got into school. We were just put in homeroom by alphabetical order. And then the teacher that we had told us who our homeroom teacher was gonna be. And when I heard who my homeroom teacher was, I was concerned a little bit. So I'm gonna show you in a sec. So my mom used to bring me to the Ella Flemings School as a kid, and she used to boost me up so I could look in the windows, because I didn't get to go to school there. So I always thought that that was really special. It was something, you know, my parents didn't sit there and look at me, well, they probably did, and go, wow, he's weird. This is a strange kid. He wants to go look in schools. What is up? But, you know, I was meant to be a teacher. It was just in my blood. It was in my DNA. So yeah, when I see this picture, I can remember my mom like trying to boost me up so I could look inside and see these darkened, empty classrooms. So my 6th grade teacher ended up being Monica Ware. And Monica Ware turned out to be my absolute favorite teacher ever. And I used to remember her coming in and doing lunch duty, and she seemed kind of strict, and I was like, I'm dead. I am dead. And I did get yelled at by her on the first day of school, and I'll never forget it. But she taught me what it meant to be a teacher. Because during that year, my parents were divorcing, my home life was a wreck, and she knew it. So she had been divorced. So she just kind of took me under her wing. And she made sure that I was her pet that year. And she used to have a picture in her wallet of when she was in college, her yearbook picture. And she used to show that to me. And it made me feel so special that she did that. And she was a teacher that had been at the Flemings School. And after Prop 2.5, she survived the cuts. But she came over to the doing school. And she used to sit with me, and we would look at the back of the Flemings School, and she goes, you know, I miss my desk. I wish I had that old wooden desk, because it's got all the drawers, and these new desks over here, they're lousy. They have 2 drawers. It's so small. So fast forward years later, after she passed away, I was up in the Flemings School, and it was being used as a daycare. It was the Little Red Schoolhouse. And I noticed her desk was gone. So I asked the lady, Alice, who was running, I said, what happened to Mrs. Ware's desk? And she goes, oh, it's in the basement. The teachers hate it. It's got lots of drawers. It's too big. They don't like it. So I said, well, listen, at that time, she was thinking of moving out of there. So if you move out, and that goes out in the trash, will you call me? She goes, why, do you want it? I said, are you for real? So she said, well, come up and get it. So my 6th grade teacher's desk is sitting in my house right now. And I wrote this book on her desk. So she was extraordinarily special. I was going through some of my mother's things this past summer, or a little bit before the summer, and I found an autograph book that she had kept that was mine when I was in 6th grade. So when you look at this, I just photographed these last night. That's why I was up till 1:30. I was going through all these things. I'm like, oh, I gotta throw this in there. So I go to the doing school. My homeroom teacher's Mrs. Ware. The best day of my life in school was my first day. My worst day of school, worst day of my life in school was the last day. Oh, by the way, I took this picture in 1982. So she's waving at me. So this is another page. If I had $1 million, I would buy the Ella E. Flemings School. I was weird, huh? Pat, come on, Pat. I was 11.
I know.
Shouldn't I have been playing hockey or something? And this is what she wrote in the autograph section. So she taught me what it means to be a good teacher and to care about your students and to realize that you sometimes are the last person that kid sees every day that's positive in their life. So years later, I went and judged the science fair that she had started. And Jack Ware, who's my principal, who I loved, in no relation, he said to me, sitting in his office, he goes, you know, she really loved you. He said, she would sit here and say, how can we help this kid? And I never forget that. So not only do I sit at her desk, but her picture sits on my desk. And every day I see that, and I remember, that could be me. That might be me with my own students. So here's Jack Ware. He taught at the Flemings School. He was a teaching principal. He was also my principal. He was amazing. Great, great guy. So I loved talking to him about the school. This is in 1997. I've been working on this book for a long time. It's time, don't you think? It was time. Irving Bailey lived down the street. So Jack Ware brought me into the school the very first time. And I thought I was the most special kid because he brought me in alone and he let me take all these pictures. And when he walked out, he shook my hand and I was like, wow, this is so cool. He's like, I felt like an adult. I felt big, you know? And he said, well, you got to meet Irving Bailey, who lived down the street. Irving Bailey had gone there when it was a one-room school. And he was also the custodian in the 1910s and the 20s. So he drew all these floor plans for me. He remembered Ella Flemings. I'm 11. I'm drawing floor plans of schools. I was meant to be a teacher. And Bev, my friend Beverly Bennett. Beverly was absolutely amazing. And so this is the two of us in 1997 at the dedication of the school. And she lived right next door to the school. And she was the vice president of the Historical Society for many years. And I got to be really good friends with her. And she used to, because she never married, she used to say to me and to others, I'm sure if you knew her, you heard this, you know, Bill, I'm just an unclaimed treasure. I'm not single. And I write this in the book too, that, you know, I'll claim her as my friend, and she was a treasure for sure. So she's not unclaimed. And I'm saddened that she didn't see the finished book. But I know that, to me, and I put this in there, you know, her spirit goes through the book. It really does, because she had so many photos and memories, and she really loved the school. So the book is dedicated to my 6th grade teacher and to Bev, to the two of them. So just a little history, tiny bit of history. So the schoolhouse that's standing there now, the Ella Flemings, is not the original school number 3. Sometimes people in the past got them confused. So this is Andover Street, right here. This is North Street. So the original school, the original one was here. It was almost at the corner of North Street, but it was on North Street. And so that school, and it's not clear why it was sold, but it was sold for like $32. It was sold for next to nothing. But if you look at the other town reports, it sounds like some of the schools were a little bit, I don't want to say run down, but needed some help. So maybe that school needed some help. So nearby, they built the Ella Fleming School, which is really about where this G is. So this school is gone. I don't know whatever happened to that building or who bought it. So here's a little mystery. Was the school built in 1858 or 1859? Everything says 1859, but I'm going to let you guys decide. Are you ready? You want to see? You ready? All right, let's see. So in 1858, in March, in the Lowell newspaper, they were looking for proposals to build the school. So they were looking for contractors to put in bids, just like they do now. So this is in March 1858. So they're asking for plans and specifications. They've already got them laid out. They want people to come in and put in bids to build it. Well, in April, we've got this. A new schoolhouse is to be built in the District number 3 at North Tewksbury, opposite the Baptist Church. Well, this is April 1858. The school's to be built. Well, then, if you look at the report of the superintendent in 1859, it says, during the past year, there has been built in the North District a schoolhouse of the first order. So it looks like the school really was built in 1858. But if you look at every single record, it says 1859. So it's probably actually a little older than what we have. But isn't that amazing? So if you look at the Tewksbury history book by Harold Patton, he's got this photo. He probably got it. This is from Bev Bennett. He probably got it from her because she had the original. And so this is from the original. And underneath it, it says Ye School District or Ye Old School. But he doesn't identify which school it is. So now I can show you which school this actually was, that it is the Ella Flemings School. I'm not going to have you read this. Not going to have you read it, but I just want to show you something. So the first teacher in that building was a woman named Sarah Richardson, and I couldn't find anything about her, where she was from, but when you read through some of this, she was like knocking the kids around or something. I don't know what was going on in that building, because they ended up getting rid of her. But it talks about, let it not be understood by these remarks as giving countenance to any such undue severity of discipline as is supposed by some of our best citizens to have characterized Miss Richardson. What was going on in this school? But she only lasted a year in that building. So when you read through these little accounts, you go, all right, I kind of guess. But I never could find her, who she was, where she went, where she was from. So one of the parts of the book that I, as a historian, as a history teacher, that I like is that every year I put in there what was going on either in the country or in the world that year. So that you could sit there and go, wow, in 1859, when kids were sitting in that school, John Brown raided Harper's Ferry. So that means the kids were probably talking about that. The next year, Lincoln was elected. That means that kids were sitting in that school talking about Lincoln being elected president. That's how old this school is and how long students have been there. Remember, students only left that school in 2004. So they've been in that school for a long time. Queen Victoria was the Queen of England when that school was built. So, I mean, Tewksbury, you really have a gem. You really have a piece of history here. Love this. So Bev Bennett had the original photo. So the one you see in Patton's book is is grainy and it's got like marks on it and stuff, but this is the original. So you can see and I'm going to show you coming up, you can see what where the original building is in the building that's there today. This was so clear that I could even read what the advertisements that they put on the pump. It says eclectic oil. It was some kind of medicine like snake oil, basically. I love this one. Now, this one I had never seen before. So when I did my talk a couple years ago, I had to hide some of these pictures because I didn't want to put them out, especially if they were going online then, because I wanted them to be like in the book. So yeah, Bev had this. I love that. I think that's so cool. And I had never seen this before. Whenever she put this in front of me one day, I was jumping up and down. The Fleming School is also a pioneer in education because it is one of the first schools to have student teachers, which if you're a teacher, you know how important being a student teacher is. In fact, the teacher that I worked with, my Will Carter right here, this is who I did my student teaching with. And he is like one of my absolute favorites. But I couldn't figure out if it was the first. So in Lowell, what is now UMass Lowell, was then Lowell Normal School. I always ask my students, what's a normal school? They go, for normal people? And I'm like, no, that's not it. And because, they're in 8th grade, so they'll say whatever. And, they're like, well, is that where you had grades? No, I'm like, that's where you learned how to be a teacher. It was teacher training. So it looks like the first school that used student teachers was in Lowell, was the Bartlett School. But I can't find what I need to prove that. So I think that the Fleming School was probably the first rural school to have student teachers, because that was important. Because these kids, mostly women, are going to school to learn to be teachers. They're not going to end up teaching in a city. They were going to end up teaching in a one-room school that had 8 grades in that school. So the Fleming School was really important. So this is Terza Moore, so she's the teacher, but these are probably the student teachers. Isn't that cool? There's some cool pics. So in 1911, the school was altered, it was enlarged, it was also moved 50 feet back. So if you go up to the schoolhouse today and you stand in front of it, you got to picture it 50 feet further up, closer to the church. And they just moved it straight back. But if you look at it, you can see where the original building is. So if you take this photo and you superimpose it here, you can see where the original school was. And the addition on the left was 2 small rooms for the student teachers. Not for the teacher in the school, but for student teachers. I just want to show you, I thought this was special. So there are all kinds of people I got to meet. And that's actually the biggest gift in this book, is I got to meet so many amazing people. So this is Donald Hicks and myself. I got to be really great friends with him. He remembered this school, and this is him right here. I looked for an hour last night. I have a photo of him bringing his grandson to school here. And I wanted to put it up there because he thought that was so special that here he was in this photo, and here he is bringing his grandson to the same school. Couldn't find it. It's around somewhere. I will find it. So 1928, this is when the school looks like it does now. So the back of the school is what was added on in 1928. So you can see those 2 rooms for the student teachers right here. 1935 is when the school got its name, after Ella Flemings. It was done in a town meeting. She was still alive when this happened. This is the only picture I have found inside the school when it was still a school. And this is in the back classroom. And this was my 6th grade teacher's classroom, but this wasn't her class. So who told me you had Miss Hersey?
No, I had, that was Monica Ware's.
This was Mrs. Ware's room, yep, and this was Miss Hersey's room. So
I'm not in it.
you're not in this?
I'm younger, I think.
Actually, if you were there when this was, you probably were younger. You probably were in the other
I
room.
know a few people in there, yeah.
You do? Oh, we need to talk. We got to find out who these people are.
The one in the middle there, I think he's Warren Bishop, right in the middle.
Well,
And next to him is Carl Fitzgerald.
we need to talk. I even researched the print that was up on the wall. So if you open up the book, it tells you what the name of the print is. In case you want to make your house look like this, you might want to. So in 1949, the school closed, just temporarily. They were seeing that they didn't have the population up there. But one of the things they said that was fascinating is they said that the kids did as well that came out of the Flemings School as in any of the graded schools in high school. They did as well. So when people said, you didn't learn as much in a one-room school, or, a classroom where the teacher taught 4 grades or 5 grades, the kids in Tewksbury did as well as the other students. And everybody I talked to about when they went to school here, because most of the people I knew went here in the 1930s. So they always went to, one of the rooms was grades 1 to 3, and the other was 4 to 8. They loved it. They said, we were like a family. And if you didn't understand something like in math, you had 5 years to hear it again. So you really walked out knowing what you needed to know because you had to hear it over and over and over again. So they felt like they really got good educations. Then the school was open again. Was anybody here during this when it was in double session? Oh, you remember this, right? Yeah, kids, the population, especially of North Troll Road.
Baby boomers.
What happened?
Baby boomers.
Baby boomers. Yeah, it was right after World War II, and the population exploded. They needed the classroom. Every single time the town of Tewksbury needed more space, the Flemings School was there. This I just want to show you because it's cool. If you look at, it's a little hard to see, but if you look at the nameplate, there's no S at the end of Flemings. And so her nephew, Ella Fleming's nephew, went to the town. He had talked about this years earlier. He was upset about it. So after World War II, he went through the town again, and he said, it's still not fixed. He offered to have it fixed, but the town did it itself. So her name really was Flemings with an S, and the sign was fixed. And Jack Ware told me when I showed him this picture one time what year that car was. He knew exactly what it was, and I forget what he said. So I can't date the picture. I know it's in the 50s probably. Again, another picture I took in 1982. I needed friends. other friends. And then the school closed during Prop 2.5. Then it was the Little Red Schoolhouse. How many of you guys remember the Little Red Schoolhouse? Sent grandkids there? Yeah? Okay, good. Yes, absolutely. Yep. 1996 to 2004, it was open again. It was another annex again to the Doing School, mostly for special education classes. And then in 2004, those programs moved out of the Flemings School. So the school has been sitting vacant since 2004. So just quick, here's Ella Flemings herself. I have been lucky enough to talk to some of her family members that are still alive. One of her great nephews had her autograph book that he just gave me about 2 months ago. So I talk about getting it in under the wire. There's this pictures in the book. I opened up her autograph book from high school and I went, that's going in. This is going in. So this was the title page in the book. It's all hand drawn. It's beautiful. So he donated that to me with the understanding that I will give it to the Historical Society when I'm not around anymore. So Nancy, we already taught this is coming to you. So Ella didn't teach at the Fleming School forever. She actually taught at the Foster School quite a bit. And I met a woman, Mary Garland. I don't know if any of you guys remember Mary Garland. Mary Garland, student taught with Ella Flemings. And so she was telling me all about Ella Flemings and that this was her classroom right here. And that she used to walk with a limp. So I'm talking to Ella Fleming's niece on the phone one day. I said, yeah, this is what Mary Garland told me. Your aunt walked with a limp. She goes, oh my God, she did. She goes, I forgot all about that. Forgot all about it. So her niece, I have a picture coming up of her. But just so you know, the Ella Fleming School that now was not the first one. Do you guys, depends on how long you've lived in Tewksbury. Do you remember Nahill's Drugstore? Yes. Where Nahill's Drugstore used to be. Tonight I went by, there's some restaurant called Paca, something like that. So that was where this school was. And this school, they really wanted this to be the Ella Fleming School. And originally, she said this was cool. She liked it. She was going to go with it. And then she changed her mind. So it became the Spalding School. So there actually was, in 1920, 15 years earlier, this movement to name another building after her. So here's a picture with her great niece. This is a fairly rare photo as well. And the nieces and nephews loved her, absolutely loved her. And they said, during the hurricane in 1938, she was so panic-stricken that the trees were going to knock the house down, that they felt like that hastened her death because she died a few days later. Miss Hersey?
Yes,
Remember?
I do.
Yes. So
Across the street where we live.
lived across the street. So Bev Bennett, that was her absolute favorite teacher. So I heard more people that I got to know had her as a teacher. She was there for like 30 years and taught grades 4 to 8. So she taught like the upperclassmen, I guess. And she was a legend in Tewksbury herself, absolutely. She looks like a teacher, huh? Doesn't she? Staunch.
Amazing.
Yeah, staunch. Staunch. So here's the painting of the book, and I want to just talk about the book itself. Now you got a little history, not a little taste. So what's in this book? The book is 444 pages. What the heck? Seriously, I had to go to a meeting a few weeks ago, and one of my friends who's a teacher in Quincy with me, but not in the same building, she goes, I saw the book on Facebook. She goes, is it a picture book? And I went, oh man, it is not. It is not a picture book. So the beginning of the book, there's a whole section on what it was like to go to school in a one-room school. And then it talks about from 1858 to 2023, every single year, there's a history. It's a chronology. Then, of course, the year in history. There's a whole chapter on Ella Flemings. There are biographies on every single teacher that I could find and principal. The arts, the architecture of the school, a tour of the building, and the end was personal memories from students, teachers, administrators, and me. So I'm just going to let you check this out. When we talk about a school is not just a building. It's also the people in the school. You know, and so my friend Michelle that I taught with is one of my closest friends on the planet. My friend Michelle and I taught together. Mark, were you in Central when we moved? Okay, so my buddy Mark, he's one of the history guys, infamous history guys. So Mark and Michelle, I don't know if you guys remember, when we moved schools, so we were in a school that was 120 years old. And we were now moving to a brand new school. This was 10 years ago. And I remember teachers being concerned that we weren't going to have the same culture when we got to the new school, that our school was so special that it couldn't be special again in this new building, or would it be? And it really, there was that concern, but a school is more than the building. It's also the people. So when you look at the role of this particular school, I mean, during World War II, they were in there rolling bandages with the kids to send to the war front. I always thought it was interesting that the Baptist church rented schoolrooms for Sunday school. And there was this huge uproar because is that a separation of church and state? How can you do this? So the town had to charge them rent. They couldn't just allow them to use the rooms because that would be the state supporting education, supporting religion.
But then they rented the Baptist church for classrooms later.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So what's the next chapter going to be? So like I said, this school's been standing here since 2004, vacant. Honestly, if it was me and they need a curator and we're going to create a museum, my buddy Pat, hi Pat, this could be a great museum. It could be a great museum for Tewksbury. It could be a great museum to teach kids what it was like to go to school in a one-room school. And then this could be a museum in the history of Tewksbury. We have a lot of history here. So when I finished the book, the girl who did the layout of the book said to me, "Why do you want the book to end with somebody else's memory? You should end it with your memories." So I said, okay, I was thinking that, so let me write a chapter. One of my friends goes, "You wrote a chapter today?" I went, "Yeah, I just banged it out." So, and what I wanted to talk about was why it took so long for me to write the book. And I had to really think about why it took so long. I mean, I literally started getting information in 1992. Well, actually, back in 1982, really. So I'm just going to read this to you because to me, this is poignant for me and explains a lot. A friend recently asked me why it took me so long to finish writing this book. Any history of this length is bound to take some time. However, I've come to realize that I had a more personal reason for not completing the project sooner. As I finish completing the book, I am not only figuratively closing the door on the Ella E. Flemings School, but also saying goodbye to some, not all, of those parts of my life that have been long connected to the school. Parts of my childhood and adulthood are reflected in these pages. It's a lot to bid farewell to. Therefore, this book is not just the story of a schoolhouse. It is the story of all the people who walked its historic halls, including teachers, students, student teachers, principals, custodians, play attendees, town officials, and a historian who was captivated by the schoolhouse as a boy. If you watch the movie Fried Green Tomatoes, which is wonderful, there's a line at the end. I put this at the beginning of the book, and I mention it again at the end. There's a line at the very end of the book where, Jessica Tandy's character, Ninny Threadgood, says, "It's funny how a little place like this brought so many people together." And I was watching this movie a few months ago, and I went, oh my God, that's the school. That's the school. And so when you open the book, that's like one of the first pages. It says this, because that really is the school. And if you think about it, here we are in 2023, and the school brought us all together, right? So there is no more magical place than a classroom, really. All right, questions? Questions?
When we took it over, public school with the special ed classes, the preschool classes, they redid part of it and changed one of the bathrooms into a handicap accessible,
Yep.
because that was a law.
Yep.
But we were teaching 3-year-olds how to go to the bathroom, so that was something. But what did the building look like before that? What were those rooms?
They were both bathrooms in the front. They were both bathrooms, boys' room and girls' room. Yeah, both bathrooms. Yep. I have some nice floor plans I drew in the book. Oh, yeah, no, so, yeah, no, they were both bathrooms when you went in. But when that school, in 1911, those were just basically closets. It sounds like one of them, the stairs used to go down to the basement in there, in that front room on the right.
In the back of the building, there was a classroom that went.
Across, yep.
But beside there was a small room that used to be the speech teacher's room.
There was like the cloakroom.
Well, the cloakroom was outside, but the storeroom was to the, if you're looking at that room, the storeroom was to the left, but to the right, there was a small corridor and
Yeah.
another room.
That was Monica Ware's cloakroom. So when she taught in that classroom, and before then, that's where the kids hung their coats. So their cloakroom was in the classroom where the others were out in the hall. So Pat, I'm counting on you. We've got to do something with this building. Nancy, we got to do something. It could be amazing. It can. And so one of the Flemings descendants contacted me. He said, do you think, he sent a letter to me and to one of his friends about that they had a cradle that was in the Flemings family. He said, do you think the Historical Society would want it? And he was asking somebody else that has another historical society. So I don't know what happened with it. But I offered to put it in my attic because Tewksbury does not have a building for the Historical Society. There isn't a museum you can go to where they can put these items on display. But this school would be great.
Wasn't that used for that? Before we moved in, or when we moved in, the first year we were there, the basement was.
They had meetings down there, but I think I think there were some issues with that other groups wanted to use it, not just the Historical Society. Plus, the basement's damp, so for them to store historical photos and
Tables with glass and stuff.
yeah, for a little short period of time. But that really didn't last that long. Because I remember Bev going over there for the meetings and so again, one of the
Because the special ed coordinator ended up doing that. So they moved out.
One of the best things about this book, for me, was all these people I got to meet. And when you're a historian, when I was 11 years old, my grandmother Pavao told me, I can still see her telling me, she goes, you're much more interested in the people who are dead than the people who are living. And so I should have known, I never forgot that because it makes sense that I would be a history teacher. It's just part of who I am. So I don't know, this school to me was special. And the reason I wrote it was not to make money. So I do ask that when you buy the book from the Historical Society, all of the proceeds go to them. If you buy the book on Amazon, the proceeds go to me. But I'm not looking to make money at all. This is for me to give this to the town, to give something that I grew up with. I grew up in Tewksbury. I wanted to give something to the town. So my next book's going to be something about Townsend, because I want to give something to them as well. So it's special. So I mean, you look at these kids having fun. Yeah, Halloween. Yeah, I mean, these are great.
Do they ever let anybody tour the school now? Like, I know it's closed up.
Not really, not now. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That would be wonderful.
yeah. Yeah, you can need a tour guide. I'll come in. I'll do some tours.
At one time,
I don't know. Was it ever condemned, do you know? 'Cause
I never saw that.
on it or anything.
Yeah, no, I never saw that. Condemned, no. No, it's beautiful when you walk in there, the walls and 2 of the classrooms are all rolled tin. I mean, you just don't see that in classrooms now. So it really is like stepping back into yesterday. And I really think that kids could benefit from seeing that. Lowell has the mills, like you can go to the boot mill and tour Lowell. And I used to bring my students to Lowell a lot every year. And that's wonderful. But Tewksbury could have something that kids could come to about school, something that's in their lives every day. And that would be, to me, that's important, to me, as an educator, as a historian. I see that as being very valuable. Questions, good?
Give them a sense of the past.
Pardon me?
It's good to give them a sense of the past so they know
Absolutely.
what got them here.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've said a million times, I think kids, it's lovely that kids know a lot about ancient Egypt and ancient Greece, and that's great. They need to know about the United States. They need to know about the history of this country because we live here. And this is part of it. So Tewksbury has a gem on its hands right now. And again, I grew up in Tewksbury. We've been out of here since 1985. Every time I come to town, it's different. It looks a lot different now than it did when I was a kid. But, buildings are gone. There's a chance here to save that, to make sure that does not happen with this. At least they saved the Foster School, even though it's apartments. Yeah. One day I drove by, it said open house, right? I said, oh, well, I'm going to go see what it looks like now. Oh, I have pictures of that school, too. I go in, what's the apartment that's open? Ella Fleming's classroom. Yeah. Oh, this is one last story. This is a true story. True. A few years ago, I'm in Tennessee, I'm in the Great Smoky Mountains, and there's a little town that you can tour called Cades Cove. It's absolutely gorgeous, beautiful. And I'm standing there, I'm outside my car, and there's a guy standing next to me, and I'm taking pictures, and he starts talking to me. And he mentioned that he works at Dollywood, right? Well, I've been a huge Dolly fan since I was this, little. So we start talking about Dolly. And then he goes, well, where do you live? I said, oh, I live in Massachusetts. I live outside of Boston. He goes, oh, I grew up in Tewksbury. I go, really? He goes, oh, yeah, I went to the Flemings School. I'm like, who did you have for teacher? I had Miss Hersey, and he's listing all these people. And he goes, oh, I've got pictures. I give him my email address. I never heard from the guy. And I was really saddened by that. He's no longer, he used to drive Dolly's, when Dolly's on the park, she does a parade through the park, and he was the guy that drove her in the parade. I'm like, buddy, I want to know you. I want to get in the parade. There's another seat there. You just never know. That was totally random. Totally random. Just meant for me to meet this guy. We had a great conversation about him going to the school. So the school touches lives. I think about this now. This is my 26th or 27th year teaching. If I had 100 kids every year, I've had almost 2,700 students. The lives that we touch. And I go back to even my 6th grade teacher, the difference that she made for me. I'll never forget that. The difference, that you made in my life. I'll always be grateful to you. Because you were there when I needed you. I was a 21-year-old guy, young guy, and I get assigned to have him as my teaching mentor. Amazing. I'm so blessed, really. Questions? I kept you guys so long. All right, Mark Conity.
You're obviously a full-time teacher. So when did you work on this? Was it nights, weekends, summer break? And also, is there any difference between being a history teacher and being a historian as a writer, different processes, or did you have two different mindsets between the two?
No, it's all the same. Yeah, it's all the same. Yeah, it all is the same. Yeah, so I started doing the research in 1992 after Monica Ware died. I've got to get this together. I've got to put this stuff together. So, but I would work on it a little bit, and then I would stop, and then I'd go to graduate school, and so there goes 2 years, and then I would work. Life happens in between. So this past year, I decided that I just have to get this done. This needs to be done. Now is the time. So I just started banging it out. So yeah, it was weekends, it was the summer, trying to get it finished. And then I had, a designer, and we were going back and forth with the proofs. And yeah, that was interesting too. It was cool to see the process though. So I uploaded the books on Amazon. Amazon does all the printing, which is great. So I have, Townsend Harbor Press, that's publishing, that's me. But Amazon prints the books. So when the Historical Society orders them, they order them through me so I can give them the price that an author gets. So that way the Historical Society can make more money. Because that way, if they make more money, someday, hopefully that'll be funneled into the school. So, or wherever you need it. Obviously, Tewksbury's special too, the whole town, not just the school. Not just the school. You have a great history here. Yeah, absolutely. And the Tewksbury tweets, man, let me tell you something. I just happened to mention that to Nancy. The next day, she calls her, oh, the women are making Tewksbury tweets for you. I said, really? So Tewksbury had tweets before Twitter had tweets. And when I was a kid at the Doing School, that used to be on our tray. That was the dessert. You know what I'm talking about, right? That was the dessert, not every day, but every once in a while. So yeah, so that was a Tewksbury thing. And so who came up to me today and gave me a box? That was sweet. She goes, here you go, Tewksbury tweet. I went, oh my God, that is crazy. So, well, folks, thanks. Again, I'm humbled. I really am humbled. I'm touched. This means a lot to me. This is part of my family. This is part of my childhood, even though I never went to school here. I remember as a kid, my mom lifting me up to look in the windows, my dad coming here with me to donate toys to the Little Red Schoolhouse. Both my parents are gone now. So this is something that meant more to me than just a building in Tewksbury. Do you know what I mean? It has some real personal connections. And of course, my 6th grade teacher, and sitting at her desk every day, I don't take that for granted at all. I feel like I'm very blessed. And the school's part of it. So thanks. I'm humbled. I'm grateful. Bless everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.